Hey everyone, welcome to my personal diary for June 2025. This month I started building something that is really cool, and if it works, I might have myself an automated engine that creates longevity science news podcasts for me or for everybody that's interested on Spotify every day with the latest papers summarized. I'm going to talk more about that, but I think it's really cool, and it's really cool to start finally building. Some quick stats for this month. So this is June 2025 before we really jump in. So first of all, I worked a total of like nearly 300 hours this month. This means 9 hours and 49 minutes every day, including weekends. This is less than the last month, so it's like a bit more chill, but still it's very good hours, and I'm very proud that this is like one of my worst months in the last quarter, which is still a crazy good month. Also, I got my grades back. So this year I did 9 courses instead of 5, so nearly double of what you do in a usual semester. And I only spent around a month on all of those courses. And those courses are spread through like 3 different semesters, so like 3 different cohorts, because I do multiple semesters at once. And I got the best grades in all 3 cohorts in, I think, like 4 of the 9 courses, or like, I'm not sure, I didn't count, like 4 or 5. And also in the other courses where I don't have the best grade, I'm like, I have 9 and the best guy has like 9.5 or something. And like, yeah, very, very good grades. I'm very proud that this worked so well, but also not so relevant. So let's, okay, actually, I'm very proud, and I wanted to share this. So here you go. June 2025. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Elias, and my goal is to make aging and death completely optional. For that, I'm trying to build a fundamental understanding of biology and AI and machine learning. And I'm making those little diaries for myself to remember, for also for my friends and my family to know what's up in my life, what I'm doing like all this time that I'm sitting in library working those 10 hours a day, 9 hours a day. And also for everybody that is interested, like maybe it's going to be useful in the future. I don't know. So about this month was building time. I already told you about the podcast making engine. I'm going to talk more about that in a bit. But essentially this month was structured that first of all, I still had to finish my exams. My exams, they went to like the 12th. And yeah, in that time I was just like, as you can see, for people watching, in the first days, it's like all green, and green is my color for my bachelor, where I study cognitive science and artificial intelligence. And yeah, it was just studying like machine learning, deep learning, advanced programming, DSA, data structures and algorithms, cognitive neuroscience, autonomous systems, computational linguistics, ethics of AI. I think those were the courses, and yeah, for them, of course, obviously, I had to study. After that, you can see the blue here. The blue is me doing like my learn coding tag. So in that time, I did CS50 web development, actually, and in that, how do I put this? So I wasn't planning to do web development, but after my exams were over, I was like, okay, let's go. It's longevity time again. And I started reading, like I have a big list of articles and papers that I want to read to build like this fundamental understanding of biology and yeah, longevity science. And I was reading an article of, like an article, and I have a very particular way how I take notes. I have a giant note-taking system. By now I have, I think, more than 10,000 notes that I took in the last 4 years. It's like, I think every day I take enormous amount. Like my whole brain is, like people say they have a second brain. Yeah, I do also have a second brain. Like this is my second brain. I have all my knowledge is in there, and I have very particular ways how I write those notes down. They're like very structured, very clear, and it's kind of a knowledge representation way that I have like my formulas. I have like mathematical signs that show like relationships between nodes, and yeah, this is like kind of how I structure my knowledge. It helps me think a lot. And while I was reading this article, I was taking my notes and I was like some parts of this, like it's very helpful for me to understand, but some parts of it are repetitive and I would like to automate them. And by the fact that by now large language models are so crazy good at many things, I was like, I could just build, like I know my Python, I can just use the ChatGPT API or the Claude API or like some API to process some inputs in a particular way and then write them in my file system, because Obsidian is essentially just markdown files on my hard drive that I can just edit with OS. And so I was like, I could automate this. So I started playing around a bit. I started building like an AI, and then I was looking around. I was like, you can give AIs tools. So I can give it the tool to be able to read part of my note-taking system. I can give it the tool to write parts of my note-taking system. I can give it the tool. So for people that don't know, the tools is essentially you give them access to a function that they can call. So instead of answering when I say, hey, what is 2 plus 5? Instead of answering from the top of their head, they could have a tool that let them add two numbers where they call the tool with the arguments 2 and 5, and then it returns the answer 7, and then they can return the answer properly. And you can make those tools everything. And they're good Python libraries, and fairly quickly I managed to write tools for reading in my note-taking system. Like in an example, I don't give it access to my 10,000 notes because they're private, and yeah, I have to think about how I do that. But in a dummy note-taking system, how to read the files, how to write files, how to delete files, how to rename files, how to change files, and I wrote like all the functions, and it was super fascinating. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I have so much power. I can build such cool tools for my LLM, and I'm like, I could do so many more things. I could integrate into my emails, and I could integrate into that. I could integrate into that, and then I started researching about it, and I figured out like, oh, well, that's what you call AI agents. And the funny thing is that kind of, because I'm listening to a bunch of podcasts, like a lot of people talk about AI agents, and it's like the big thing, like 2025 is the year of agents. And I was always like, yeah, it's some hype, whatever. And now, kind of from first principles, I discovered like, oh, this is really cool. And it made me think. I was like, oh, okay, before that I was kind of defensive towards that idea, because I was like, yeah, it's probably some hype, and I just focus on my lane. I learn my, I don't know, deep learning, machine learning algorithms, my biology, and there I go, become a longevity scientist. But then I was like, hey, that's cool. Like I can automate so many things, and just because it's hyped doesn't mean it's bad. And I want to explore this more because, yeah, I think that's an interesting field, and I want to explore it. So then here, yeah, this is for people watching again, my monthly calendar, and all this green stuff is my tag for learning machine learning. And maybe it's a bit wrong labeled, because that was the time I spent on building AI agents. And the first couple of days I spent on building basic, like this basic agent that can interact with my Obsidian agent. And after I figured that out, I was thinking more, and I'm like, couldn't you build a general universal problem-solving agent if you stack LLMs together in the right way? And I have a particular architecture in mind, and I already wrote the kind of the bare bones code of kind of an LLM that breaks a big task down to smaller tasks, then recursively calls itself the smaller tasks, with like some checking, some planning involved. Like it doesn't just break it down one by one, but it plans like a sequence of actions. It criticizes the sequence of this sequence of actions. It's a bit like AlphaEvolve. I made a video about it. It's a very cool algorithm that uses LLMs to actually come up with new knowledge, new heuristics for data center scheduling, for new problems to mathematical, new solutions to mathematical problems. And kind of based on that idea, I developed this concept of my universal problem-solving agent. turns out it's a bit harder to implement. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start with something more simple before I build this universal problem-solving agent. And so I started to build an agent that can, how do I best order this? I started to build an agent that can scrape through recent news of longevity. So it kind of looks through all the recently published papers in longevity science. So like everything that was published, let's say in the last, 3 days. And in the last 3 days, there were, let's say, 12 papers published that match my search query. Then in LLM goes through those papers and classifies them based on my goal. So let's say my goal is to make aging and death completely optional. So there are a bunch of papers that are tagged with geoscience but are not relevant for me. So I use this LLM to like scan the abstract and be like, is this irrelevant or not? And it puts them, like it discards all of the papers that are not relevant. So let's say out of those 12, we have 4 left now. Then it puts it into Notebook LM, which is like a podcast. It's very amazing. It's a product by Google where you can put PDFs and papers in, and it creates a podcast based on that. Then it downloads this podcast, and it uploads the podcast to Spotify. And then I can listen to the podcast on Spotify. And it does it, like if I managed, it would do it completely automated. And that would mean that every 3 days or every 2 days or whatever I choose, I will have a podcast with the most recently published longevity papers relevant to my goal, personalized on Spotify in my feed to listen to while I go to university or while I clean my room or whatever. And yeah, so this is kind of the agent that I'm building right now. It's not as agentic, it's a very rigid workflow, but it's using LLMs and yeah, it's just fascinating. And as you see, this month, I kind of got a bit off track. Like before I was like very rigid, like, okay, I have to, like, I read my longevity biology book, I'm doing this course, and now I started building, and my building kind of took me like a new path. And I have to evaluate if I think this is good or bad, but in general, like, I'm super excited by these new things that I'm learning, and I think there's a lot of potential here, and also for combining them actually with the things that I like maybe combining them with being a scientist is amazing. Like having those longevity news podcasts, paper podcasts is amazing when you want to become a scientist, because you can just listen to this and stay up to date. And I can also use the same strategy to filter papers for maybe another criterion and make a big meta-analysis based on those papers by like chaining different models together and yeah, extracting relevant information, making statistics based on that. And yeah, while this will probably not solve aging, I scrapping papers together. I think there's like huge potential, like for automating parts of work and yeah, providing value very quickly and very like a lot of value. Yeah, so this is a field that I'm actively exploring right now, agents, and as you have noticed, I'm very excited by it, and I also think that it might be a good choice for the goals I have. As I maybe already have told you, I would like to move to Silicon Valley to join the top team. Like I love building, I love doing great things. I love growing. I love putting my all into building something cool or making something cool, like putting effort into something that I think is meaningful. And I would like to do that with a great team of great people. And I think one of the best places on Earth, or like one of the places where there's the highest density of people, just by the fact that it has been like this for the last whatever years, is Silicon Valley, because it just attracts people that want to build. So I think I have a high chance to find like a great team of people that I can work with there. And I was thinking, like, if I deeply learn biology, I'm not sure if it will, like, if I just learn biology, I'm not sure if it will bring me to Silicon Valley, because what projects can I do if I just know biology? I don't have a lab. I have access to GPUs from my uni, but I don't have access to any wet lab equipment. But with access to GPUs, I can do some cool computational work. So yeah, this might be the right direction. Like, similar also to the reason why I chose machine learning, but now this is maybe my point where I specialize. Like, I was always thinking about, okay, what is gonna be my craft? Like, I was like, okay, computation biology, but still broad. And yeah, automating things with large language models, building agents for science, that might be, yeah, like, at least right now, in my honeymoon phase where I just got to know this new thing, I'm very excited by this, and I'm thinking of making this my craft, like really mastering this and really trying to become extremely great at this, and yeah, just seeing where it takes me. I notice now that I start building, it's a very, very distinctly different type of doing something than learning, because you have to imagine, for the last 3 years I gave my all into learning and also learning how to learn. So I have I feel like I have extremely good systems for quickly understanding things deeply and like keeping them. And I talked about my grades. It's like, it shows. Like, I started like, for 5 of these 9 courses, I watched the first lecture 2 weeks before the exams, and still I had better grades than most of the people. Okay, also I worked, I don't know, like, I had 80-hour work weeks in the time before the exam, so I probably still spent similar amounts of time as anybody else. But still, I feel like I can, what I want to say is, like, I have good systems for learning, but I didn't build those systems for building yet. And that's kind of fascinating, and also, of course, a bit difficult, that now I have to kind of switch from learning mode to building mode. And I'm actively exploring, okay, like, what are my systems for building? Like, what are my, like, I have this Obsidian that I optimized everything out of it that is perfect to help me learn, to help me understand, to force me to understand my ideas, to write down knowledge. But when you build, maybe you don't need it exactly like this. Maybe you need a bit something else. And yeah, I'm kind of discovering right now, okay, what are my systems for building? What am I, like, how much do I try to copy and paste? How much do I try to actually deeply understand? Because some problems you solve by copy and pasting something from ChatGPT. And that's the fastest way, and it works. And some other problem, you copy and paste something from ChatGPT and it doesn't work. And then you copy and paste the error message and you copy and paste again and it doesn't work. And you do that for 2 hours. And in the end, you bang your head against the wall and you wish that you would have spent this time trying to understand the problem. And yes, for me, it's about, like, finding the right balance, because it's definitely not only one or only the other. Like nobody can tell me that one of the two extremes is perfect. There has to be a balance, and I'm slowly finding this balance and actively reflecting on that. Yeah, and that's kind of what's going on in my life right now. Other than that, there's absolutely not a lot. I'm working so many hours that the rest of my time I spend on, I don't know, gym, sauna, and eating with friends. And yeah, that's kind of it. What I'm going to do next month? I'm going to do more building, and I'm going to learn more about automation, the stuff I told you about. I'm started now because I noticed, like, my Python is good, but I noticed that a lot of stuff is written in JavaScript, TypeScript mainly, especially MCPs, which are like it's like a standardized way to give tools to models, to large language models. And many of those MCPs are written in JavaScript. And for some of them, there's also a Python version, but I feel like this Python version is just like because the people wanted to be nice and also make a Python version out of it. Or some Python person was like, oh, I want to code in Python, so I make like a version out of it. But like the main thing is in JavaScript. So I would like to understand this and Mark, my best friend here, he spent quite a bit of time on learning web development, and therefore he knew exactly, okay, I have the perfect course for you. I already bought it. Here, you can have my login to Udemy. And he gave me his login, and now I'm doing some JavaScript fundamentals course that apparently is extremely good and it's the best course in the world. And I didn't even have to think about if it's the best course because I know he did the research. And I finished the intro sections. I also did CS50 Web. And I'm going to spend more time on that. I'm going to try to deeply understand I'm going to try to build MCPs. I'm going to try to build more agents with more cool tools. I'm going to build the podcast automation. I'm thinking, I have a lot of project ideas. I think I want to build. I want to start building. I want to see how building is. I want to learn by building. I want to learn building by building, and I want to learn the things I want to learn through trying to actually build them and then seeing, okay, where's the problem, where's the thing that I'm lacking, and then go learn. Exactly what I'm doing with JavaScript now. I want to understand MCP, and I see it's written in TypeScript, and I know basic JavaScript, but it's like I don't feel confident enough. So I just want to take a couple of days, do this course, because it's going to be handy anyway to understand this. And then I'm going to take a couple of more days to understand TypeScript, and then I can go in there. And this is the way I mean learning by doing. Like, you try something, you figure out where you're not able to do it, you learn that, you go back, you fail again, you learn again, and back and forth until you crack the nut, until you have automated longevity science podcasts. If you watch this longer, you know that I was doing longevity science news podcasts myself. And when I figured out that there's NotebookLM, which does such an incredibly great job at making podcasts based on PDFs, I was like, there's no way that I can compete with that. And I rather build this and listen to it myself than do those podcasts myself. I think I can have way more positive impact like that, because I personally couldn't spend every day reading the newest paper and making a podcast about it. But if I build this automation, I can make a new podcast about the newest paper every day, exactly on the day that the paper is published. And I think that's quite cool. So that was my month, June 2025. I enjoyed recording this, and that's it. Oh no, one thing more. It's not always easy. Sometimes it's also really hard to keep working. Sometimes it's also really depressing if you do copy and paste for 2 hours and it doesn't work. Sometimes it's just hard to keep working, but it's okay. I feel like during those reviews I always sound, or I got also some feedback that I always sound like, oh, everything is perfect and I'm doing those crazy hours and I'm happy and I'm doing workouts and saunas and I'm healthy and I'm making progress and whatever, and it's all super easy. And it's not always super easy. I think the cool thing is that I like what I'm doing, and if you would give me €1 million right now, I would do exactly the same thing. Maybe I would buy a bit better food, learn a bit about investing so I don't waste those €1 million and give a bit to my parents. But other than that, I would do exactly the same thing. And the only thing is that just sometimes there's just downtimes where it's hard, and that's okay. My motto is, or the motto that I decided on Easter, I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago, was Elias, enjoy everything. Enjoy everything. If it sucks, enjoy it. Enjoy the suck. You don't have to make the suck feel good. You don't have to be like, oh, it's so cool that it sucks. No, it can suck, but enjoy that it sucks. deeply feel that it sucks. And maybe that's easy to say if it doesn't really suck. And yes, it's incredibly hard when it really, really sucks to enjoy. And I probably never experienced, like, I think there are people that experience way more suck than I do. But I try to live by that, and I try to learn it, and I try to learn it more and more, that when it sucks, I breathe and I feel how it sucks. And yeah, I don't think I'm perfect at it, and it's definitely a journey, and I will never be perfect at it. But like every day, I'm trying to become a bit better at that. Actually, I forget it very often. But yeah, enjoy everything. Enjoy everything.